Okay, so today is the day that we are going to talk about a topic that has been always present in our lives. Because when we think about the value of life, it's something that every day we deal with, not only towards our own lives, but lives of others around us, family, friends, and everything that we have the responsibility with surrounding us. So for a moment, let's think about life. When we think about life, and if I ask anyone here about your life, what is it that comes to mind? Immediately we think of our life as we perceive right now, right? How we look, where we live, our families, work, etc., 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 right? So everything that surrounds us now. We think of life on earth. Since we're in a Spiritist group, I hope that we can also, some of us at least, think about us as spirit, right? Us as beyond just the material life. Okay, so that's giving a little credit here for all of us, right? But when we think about life on earth, we think about the appearance. We worry a lot about how we look. We don't want to be sick. We want to look perfect. Perfect bodies according to the standards, hopefully, right? We want to have, the beauty also according to the standards. Overall, we think that this is something that are important for us. Plus, we think that we want to be happy, whatever that means for each one of us. What is it to be happy in this life on earth? That's a good food for thought. And we have also perceived success on earth related to our material life. We plan for us, we plan for our children. At least we give them a path, right? For the material success. Go to school, we prepare ourselves professionally, hopefully to have a good job, well paid. Some of us worry more or less about the status attached to that job that we will have or our children will have. So these are easy to think about. The same way that we want, to have the romantic love, right? We dream of starting our families, whatever style family it is. But having our partner, having somebody that will share with us those moments in this life. And we start measuring ourselves by some of these standards, by this material conquest. So, the titles that we've got, the amount of money or power, the awards, what we've been accomplishing, materially speaking. So that's a lot that is in our minds, in our lives here on earth. We even, believe it or not, and some of us maybe not do that, but we look up at some famous people because it looks like they have it all. They have the looks, they have the money, they have the power, they have a lot of things, and we feel like, oh, is that what we want to be happy in this life? And obviously, we know that the person who has or looks like has everything material does not show any example of being completely happy. So we might even think that is happiness, but is it? So then we'll go a little deeper. Let's think now of those issues that we're talking about. are we purely matter? How come those having everything does not make us super happy? There's always something missing there. Even those moms, everything looks perfect, it's not perfect. Because we are not purely matter. At least that's not what we believe. Unless we are materialist. If you are materialist, we believe that everything is matter, ends, period. But otherwise, we believe there is something beyond that. And an obvious question is, we are not here forever. This body has an expiration date. There is a time that's it. Can be sooner or later, but it's not here forever. Our spirits is a different story, but not our bodies as it is. So why do we really put so much emphasis, so much focus on the material success? Well, we are in the material world, right? It's easy to get distracted or get focused on something that it's real, it's concrete, it's here, now, right? It's harder to think beyond that. But, well, at the same time, why would God give us material life if we should only value the spirit? Isn't that a good question? Because sometimes we get a little lost just saying, oh my gosh, should I be really doing this? Or should I just focus my life into the spirituality? Should I be enjoying myself? Should I be spending this money? Should I give up everything? Well, we have those resources for a reason, right? So if God put us in this material life, there is a reason, right? God does not give us or provide us with anything that has no use. There is no reason behind it. So in that case, let's see what causes then think that way. How do we balance those two things? And then we go back a little bit on who we are. And here is a simple summary of this question in the Spirit's book when we talk about we as spirits. So we were created simple and with lack of knowledge, meaning ignorant from knowledge, with the potential to reach perfection. Perfection in the sense of a relative perfection, not become God, but getting perfection as the creature, and people like us now and beyond. But creatures of God, not a creation of God, not as God. We are ever progressing mortal spirits. That means we don't end as spirits. We have the eternity. We're immortal, in progress. What does that show us here? So looking at this chart, we are progressing morally and intellectually. There are categories of spirits, and now look where we are here. We are imperfect spirits, and there is a lot of influence of matter over the spirit. And then we're going to get to be pure spirits. A long, long way to go. But as we get to be a pure spirit, then we don't need the matter anymore. But for now, the matter has the importance for us to work on our evolution. Okay? So let's take a moment and understand this. The spirit, we spirits, were created first as spirits. So as we saw in that chart, we are spirits. We have the matter to work with and being able to evolve until we get to be a pure spirit, and there we go. We don't have to come back again. So basically, our origin is the spiritual world, right? Here is a temporary transition for our evolution. Matter is a means of evolution that was given by God to us for us to evolve. It doesn't mean we don't evolve while we are in the spiritual world, but definitely it's a faster pace when we come on earth and have our trials. Well, so the spirit could have always existed without the matter, right? So if we're a spirit and we're going to go back and continue being spirits forever, the matter is just for our evolution. But the matter does not exist without, with the intelligence that we have, without the spirit to connect to it. In other words, if I die here now, what happens? My spirit gets disconnected from that matter, my body will be inert, won't have any life, right? So then they are disconnected. So the body needs the spirit to be connected to it. So life is transitory. We're going to get to a point where we don't need to reincarnate anymore. Like we said, we have a long way to go. So let's focus on each, period now. Let's now think about this reincarnation where we are. We don't think about pure spirit when we get there. So how can reincarnation help our spiritual growth? We learn new experiences and knowledge. Remember that, that's how we've been acquiring knowledge, through the reincarnations. But we also have, a story behind us. Each one of us bring our spiritual baggage, the things that we conquered, the things that we created debts from with other people, other situations, other lives before. And therefore, when we reincarnate, we are able to retest. It's like going to school, and at school, we fail a test, we have to retake the test. We don't go back, but we study again, prepare again, and do it again, right? To get it better, get it right. In this new context, in a new life, a new reincarnation, what we have here is the chance of forgiving and being forgiven, in case we bring those debts from before with other people. And we have the chance of having almost like a fresh start. It's not a fresh start in the sense that I still have there what I brought from before. But I don't remember, so that I just have the possibility of moving along and learning how to forgive and also love each other. If we knew what had happened before, it would be much harder, would be ashamed, would be embarrassed of things we did, or would be angry at some people because we would remember what the other people did to us. Wouldn't be good. So, and of course, we could summarize everything that we learned in the reincarnation regarding the love that was taught by Jesus to us. So the unconditional love is the ultimate goal for us to learn and to become that pure spirit that we're looking forward to. Okay, between the reincarnations, so remember, go spiritual world, come, incarnated, then we go back to the spiritual world, and that goes on and on. When we go back, or we come back, we are who we are. Taking our spiritual baggage means that we are not going to become saints just because we disincarnate. We die. Our body dies, our spirit continues bringing or taking whatever he or she learned and has to add at that moment that we brought from before, that we're able to clean, to make amendments, and then we keep going and learning more and more. So the thing is, when we are in the spiritual world, and after, of course, going through the transition or getting to the spiritual world, we are able to have a different view, a better view, a broader view of what our lives are. Not only this one little moment, which is this incarnation, like we began, right? We began by saying that if we think now, we just know now. But in the spirituality, I'm able to see what I just lived on earth and what I accomplished or not. That was supposed I had planned or not, and I did, right or wrong. So we are able to have a better understanding of that, and we are better understanding also on what we need to improve. So we are able to do that. And then what happens is we use our free will and we start planning our next reincarnation. Well, our next reincarnation, when we have the possibility of planning, because we are able to analyze together with our mentors, sometimes we ask for us to go through things that our mentors will say, oh, come on, you won't do it, won't be able to live that way or succeed that way. Because we want really to have, to plan on hard trials so that we are able to get rid of a lot of things in front of us and go faster to a happier state. And they are the ones who sometimes stop us from doing that. But we don't like to think that way, right? When we think of our lives now and there's something that is not so good, we wonder, like, I could not have planned such a thing for myself. And obviously, if we continue thinking in this material world and the satisfactions that we want, that is immediate satisfactions, that would be true. But remember that when we planned, we were in the spirituality, looking at, it was a different perspective. So if we asked for and we got it, we normally are able to do it without complaining so much. When some things are a little more imposed to us to help us to move faster, or move, for that matter, then we have more trouble accepting it. But we are not left to go through our lives without preparing ourselves. So while we're still in the spiritual world, we study, we work, we get ready for the next reincarnation and the things that we said we are going to do and we asked for. So it's not every detail, right? The plan is an overall idea of, my life, what kind of work I will do, or am I going to live in a certain family? Am I going to have certain conditions in life so that I'm working on different tests at that particular reincarnation? Okay, then we get back on Earth. And we continue bringing our tendencies, right? Good or bad. And we have, like we said, in our physical body, we don't remember the past. And then we start blaming others, including God, for those trials that we have to go through. And here, for us to remember that we are talking about valuing life. Just so we remember. And valuing life is the life as it is at this moment for us. What it is that we are going through, there is always a reason behind it. There's not just by chance, or we don't have that God punishing us and not letting us live what we think that would be best for us. It's like when we decide that we're going to take a shot because we're looking ahead and we see that shot will avoid me from getting a certain disease, and that shot hurts and we're not happy and it can have side effects, but that shot will save me in the long term. We have lots of distractions when we're in the material world. And distractions meaning, we have work to do. We have to get the material things for us to be able to live in this life. We cannot just live as a spirit here. We are incarnated spirit. And those distractions, sometimes we can lose a whole reincarnation just not paying attention at what the real meaning is for us to be here. We also deal with a lot of people. We share, we learn from, we teach, we help each other. And this is also something, starting from our families, what it is that we learn there, that there are some people that are easier for us or harder for us, including in our own family. And we don't remember, like we said, but we have had some of these relationships. They're not by chance that we reincarnate in that specific family. Sometimes we have people that are very, has affinity with us, and others that really are trying to learn to love each other, really working harder, being in the same family. And that's why it's so important for us to give that extra step to be able to learn with each other. And we still have our free will. We are changing our lives every day, all the time. We can make it better or worse for this life and for the next ones. We're building our future, and when I say future, I'm not just talking about other lives. We're talking about tomorrow, a minute from now. It depends on every single decision that I make. I'm changing that in my life. So we reap what we sow, good or bad. Law of cause and effect that we always talk about. Everything has a reason. We don't have anything. We are not victims of the fortune of the, lucky. We're not lucky or unlucky. It is what we made out of it. We do have moments of happiness because, sometimes we get very, very bitter, thinking and talking only about the problems, the issues, the negative stuff. But we do have, and sometimes we have long moments of happiness, long years of happiness. But then one little thing happens and we focus all in that one problem in our lives. That's our tendency. So we do have the happiness and we have the issues to deal with, like we talked about. And we do live on a planet that still has a lot of suffering. And a lot of it coming from as a consequence of what we've been doing. Ourselves, we bring from the spiritual side, not that the spirits will give to us. We spirits register on our bodies, and we are going to get it. In every single reincarnation, we have that coming in, good things and bad. Good health, or sometimes some illnesses that they're part of our spiritual growth. So there are many issues here, just put a few, that we deal with. Either for us directly, we have that problem ourselves, or in our families, or close friends, that we have situations that we are there to help or to be helped. And it's important that when we look at all these issues, that we think that every life is worth being lived. I remember when I was growing up, we had a neighbor, and her son was completely dependent on her. He didn't walk, he didn't talk, he just drew all the time. It was depend on everything from her. I mean, to the extent the doctor said that, he would probably live until as a teenager. And what was very touching was to see that her love, both parents, but especially with her, that we had more of a relationship towards this at the time boy, right? And the only thing that I remember with him, for him, the way he expressed was, the smile when she got close to him. So he could barely express anything, but we could see the love acting so dearly on him, and how that spirit and that life was very was worth it, in the sense that, because some people will say, well, but what is that spirit learning? What is happening for that life? That, well, every single life, every single shape, and all the situations that we might have and be part of, they all have a very special meaning and a learning, and a lesson to be learned. And for me, that I always remember, last news that I had, he was probably in his 40s, because he was being really taken care of, and he was taking advantage of this reincarnation a lot, in the sense of the way that was causing him a big impact, and for her as well. We don't know what the story behind it. We don't know what brought them to be together, to be in that family, and what caused all that. But we understand that the commitment between these spirits in this incarnation made life so special. So sometimes we are so bothered by little things, and we have no idea how happy really we are. And happy in the sense of being that's the person who has not necessarily everything materially speaking, but having everything that we need in order to continue this progress that we are here for. Are we alone? No. We are not alone in the sense that we have each other. We do have family, we have friends, we have in this material world. And also, we have our spiritual guide. We can call the guardian angel, we can call different names, but definitely our mentor or mentors, right, are there for us. They cannot do the job for us. The same way that we can be a tutor of someone, and we can teach a subject, we can help, we can coach, but the time of the test, the person will have to do it, cannot do for them. So it's the same thing. So according to the consoler, Emmanuel says a spiritual guide can be a good friend, but it will neither be able to replace you in the fulfillment of your own duties, nor to remove you from the trials and experiences that are essential to your self-enlightenment. So our trials, our needs, we need to conquer ourselves for our own merit and growing. So we are not alone, but we are in charge. And gives us a lot of power when we think of our lives and that we are responsible. So it's a privilege and a duty that we have, and we are able to make our lives much better. But then things can get hard, very hard. And we feel that some people, or some of us included, sometimes we don't want to deal with certain things. And there are many ways that we escape, many ways. So when we talk about addictions, we talk about vices, when we talk about what we are going to be talking now, each one of us should be thinking, what is the way that we try to escape? And what are we escaping? Are we escaping from ourselves? Are we escaping from the problems? We can't escape, right? We can't just try to anesthetize ourselves or, get a break. And sometimes we can coast a whole reincarnation and do nothing to improve. We can just be there. But that is our choice. What we really want. Do we want to escape, right? So we got a few things that will cause us to feel like escaping, that make us weak. So our tendencies, when we already bring tendencies to escape our spiritual nature and only focus on current problems, we lose strength. And here, it's a series of things that we face one way or another in our lives. If we don't really face in a positive way, then we are not strong. We lose hope. When you say about losing strength, we don't have enough hope sometimes to keep going and holding the hands of those who are there to help us. When faith is missing, our shaken, not unshaken yet faith, right? Matter sometimes take over. We just worry about that. And we want something so badly that we don't even want to hear anything against it. We just don't want to even consider the possibility of not getting that. We get upset about it. And we perceive that as a failure if we don't get it. And then we lose the strength. When we don't see life as a blessing and every difficulty as opportunities of learning, we also lose strength. Because when we're talking about problems, issues, difficulties, what we learn in Spiritism, these are opportunities for us to learn. If I chose those, or even if I didn't choose, but that was part of a plan for me to continue my life in a direction towards God and towards the right path, then it's a blessing and not a problem. But if you perceive it that way, it becomes really hard. And then when we see things, we see this one life as the only chance to conquer those spiritual values, that gets even harder. And we see time running out, and then we, really lose the strength. And for some, it's unbearable. And that's what we see, and that we learn to really look with compassion and love and no judgment ever, because we are not free from going through any of the problems that we talked about before. We talked about vices or addictions, and if you look at the pictures, some don't even look like should be a problem, but we can make this a problem in our lives if that becomes, an eating. We have to eat, but we don't need to indulge ourselves like crazy, right? Or shopping. Oh, it's okay to go shopping, but some people get to be compulsive, right? And don't even open the packages. Or work, or the internet, and so on and so forth. Everything that we use continuously and we cannot be away, we cannot stop, that's the addiction concept. It becomes like a sickness. We get sick out of it. We cannot control ourselves or get rid of that desire. And we become slaves to it. And when we talk about detachment of material things, it's not like, oh no, that's okay, I can live without that money, that property, or this or that. We're talking about everything that we cannot live without. So let's think about it. How are we putting our effort, our lives in even danger sometimes by the addictions on things that we can't get rid of? We compromise our health, destroy families, jobs, and attract the obsessors. And here, just a little touch to remember the obsessors can be anybody around us, right? That feed our thoughts and feelings. Because sometimes we are trying to get away from certain things that are damage to us. And those who feed our thoughts and we feed their thoughts, those are those obsessors, spiritually speaking or materially speaking. And then there are certain games, activities that give the thrill. It's to excite our senses. And some of this, to tell you the truth, when I started looking about it, there are certain things there that I even know about. I mean, and I bet there are many more of this kind, like this, for example, this choking game. Obviously, we had heard, because that's one game that a lot of teenagers are dying. They apparently, if you choke yourself, or their friends are choking each other, sounds weird, right? But apparently it cuts the oxygen from going to the brain in those seconds or milliseconds, I don't know for how long, I don't even want to know. That causes the person to feel high, some euphoria, some sense of floating, or this or that. And you can imagine how dangerous that is. A lot of kids dying because you need to know exactly when to stop, otherwise you'll get killed. So it is something that happens. The Russian roulette, I mean, these are just some examples for us to think about. Do you know Russian roulette? You know, you put one bullet here, and go around, and each one will go in, and the unlucky one who get the bullet get killed. So what kind of games are we playing? Or going in a super high speed, or playing with wild animals and so on. It's not judging the activity per se, but what can cause us. Okay, so let's be clear. What are we doing? Are we valuing our lives when we put ourselves in situations of danger? Or we just, the senses are more important, the thrill are more important, right? So are we taking those big risks? And a lot do take big risks in many kinds of activities. So we might just, for some, especially when you're super young, might think that you're invincible. And that's what a lot of kids will think, and we know we are not. But we're not just talking about kids here, right? We're talking about all ages. And we lose our lives. If we lose our lives in activities like that, we are responsible too. We're responsible for the things we do, how we use our time. And then violence. Violence is something that we are used to seeing, unfortunately, right? To hear in the news. But there are several ways that we live violence in our lives. Not just that we live in a society that is violent, but if we are angry all the time, we get to be violent towards others, right? We impose, we scream, we just want to get it by force. That's a kind of violence. It's an abuse. Do we rebel? And sometimes we shut down when things that we don't like, and then we turn around and we don't recognize who this person can be, right? Do we get into cruel actions? And we immediately say, no, of course not. But do we vote? Do we accept the fact that we are going to carry guns? Let's just think about it. Is it okay? Does it help us to use the guns? Am I going to shoot somebody if somebody attacks me? Question mark. Do we want us to go to war? Or kill that person, that terrorist that is causing problem? So we get killed and we kill. How do we act? How do we react to those things? So we put ourselves in situations that are dangerous, that we can be not sometimes the promoters of certain actions in our society. For example, in Texas we still have the death penalty, right? So we are allowing to kill. So those things are things for us to think about. where we put ourselves and how we value our lives and other people's lives. Well, then it gets to the ultimate act of rebellion against, the suffering, against the situation, or the escape. And we couldn't talk about valuing life without mentioning at least about the suicide. This is what the book by Richard Simonet says, the Who is Afraid of Death, will say about the suicide. Self-annihilation is considered to be a deceiving door in which the individual ridding oneself of one's difficulties and being in a much worse situation. So if you look here, we think that I'm going to end the problem. And again, no judgment, because for the person to get to that point, there are so many things that, got into the mind, and so it is just for us to think about ourselves. If ever in our lives we consider that, let's think again and try to get away from this idea, because it's an illusion in the sense that if I believe life continues, and we do, well, I will be on the other side of life with a bigger problem. And therefore, I'm going to be really not valuing all the opportunities that I'm having in this life, even with all the difficulties, all the situations that we have. Nothing really will be bigger and more harmful than getting rid of our lives instead of trying to get rid of the problems, right? So this is hard, because then we are going to have in our bodies, for the future reincarnations, we're going to have consequences. So my spiritual body will reflect, so whatever I cause to myself during the act, it's registered in my body, my spiritual body, and I'm going to cause myself more damage for later on. So then, complaining about life now, then will be a cause for many other issues, depending on the way that I ended my life. So then let's not blame God for anything, because in this situation, it's part of one of those decisions that we made, and we cause ourselves more harm. And then another subject. Recently we watched the movie about euthanasia. And apparently in some countries it is legal to go there and just to say, I have this, whatever reason, terminal disease, or I'm a paraplegic and I don't want to live that way, and I can just decide to get an assisted death, whatever that's called. And then we thought about it, about the euthanasia, and how that is also a way that we don't perceive when there is a huge problem. If I don't want to go through, my, a terminal disease that will cause me pain, I want to avoid that for myself or somebody else. It's hard to watch somebody suffering, right, in our family, somebody we love, being in a coma for a long time, or being in a vegetative state. It's hard, but it is something that we don't know the reasons why that person is in that situation as a spirit, an eternal spirit. So even though we are told there is nothing else to be done, we believe that God is the one, right, who is responsible to the time for us to return to the spiritual world. It's not our decision. And we understand that some people say, oh, it's my life, right? And we say that for a lot of things. But yeah, we have the free will. We can do whatever we please. But then we are going to harvest the things that we plant, right? This is There's no way that we are going just to get away with whatever we want. It's like we teach our children, right? There are consequences. That for everything that we do, there is an effect for everything that we do. So, and euthanasia will interrupt that trial of the spirit. We don't know what goes through the mind of that person that is in a coma, for example. And when I talk about the person, I'm talking about the spirit. Because we've had several examples of people that were in that situation and they would remember things that happened. People said certain things at a certain time and they could know what was going on. And some of them, obviously, they came back to tell us. They were, it's not necessarily the end if they're in that situation. So when we decide to do that, we are going against, we're not resignated towards God's laws and designs. We don't know if that person can come back. So understanding the value of every minute, now it's not even talking about the value of life in general, but every minute of our life. In 1 minute, we can do a lot of things, right? We can, especially if you're in bed and just thinking, right? If you are in a situation that you are not having to do other things, but you are just there. We are thinking about the lives we've had, the people around us. We're able to forgive some action that was done against us. Less than a minute, we can reconsider things. We can avoid a lot of problems for this person in the future if we let the person live the time that he or she is supposed to live, instead of cutting it shorter. And that moment of pain, of suffering of that person might be what she or he needs to rethink about a lot of things. It's not our responsibility to do it. So we used to tell, I tell my husband, if you want something like that, you put in writing. And the only thing I can do, don't even ask me to give to any doctors, because I don't want to share that responsibility with you. So you just leave it there. Give it to the lawyer, I don't know, whatever you want to do, but that's not my thing. Okay. We went through escapes, problems, this and that. And then imagine that we've gone through a lot, but we are firm. We're getting older. Wow, that's great. But not so great for a lot of people. Unfortunately, some people resent getting older. How do we perceive that old age? And I put two, Alain Delon and Brigitte Bardot for us to look, and yeah, we do age. We lose that, attractive selves that we were when we were younger, right? I mean, some people age really well and sometimes get even, more handsome than they used to be. Anyway, but how do we feel about that in our lives? That's a good question. Yeah, we do lose some of flexibility. Sometimes we are a little slower here and there. Not always. Not everybody. Everybody age is different. But our lives are really important every step on the way. It's never too late to learn anything, especially when we believe we are eternal spirits. And so we continue learning. We continue studying, we continue helping, we continue adding to that spiritual baggage there for us to take with us and keep going. And then one thing that I was thinking about when I was doing this, well, it's a great time in our lives to focus on spirituality. And then here, it's not because we're closer to go there, right? It is because it's the time that we have fewer distractions. We already conquered a lot of things, materially speaking. Because some people will say, oh, get older, and then people start thinking about those things of the spirituality. It's because we have that time now. We have more flexibility in our time, fewer distractions. It is a good time, a good way to use our time. I mean, it's good all the time, since we're little until we get older. But, I've heard, as you know, my father passed away in March. And we had this conversation, that's why I'm pointing this out with my mother. And we went through those questions that we all go through in a time like that, or some of us. And she was saying, what is it going to be my life now? After 60 years with my father. And we were talking about this, and she was like, okay, I already did this, and she went on telling me everything that they had accomplished together, and I said, whoa, that's a great time for you to do other things too, right? Life, we continue here. Let's find the things that, you want to do or continue doing, because she already does a lot of